Why I'm going to use checkbox when I want to provide multiple option to the user. I'm going to use the label or text box to display the sum, and I must have a controller that is nothing but the button. From where I'm going to get the text box? From the tool box. I have the text and I want to change that default text into name, because I'm going to use label for the field name. Hello to all, a warm welcome to my new session on introducing Windows Form. I'm your Revati ma'am, faculty from the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram, First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. So dear student, before going to start my today's session, let me to recall the topic what I have discussed in my last session. In my last session, I started with what is Windows class and what is the need of Windows class. Suppose if I want to design any Windows Form application which is going to run on desktop system or laptop, to design those kind of application, I must have the Windows class. Along with that, I have discussed how to create simple Windows Form application by using C# programming language. Now, in my today's session, once again, I'm going to deal with how to adding controls to a form, and what is group box, what is label control, text box, check box, and buttons. So dear student, from the examination point of view, this chapter is very important, and all these topics are very important. Now dear student, let me to discuss how can I add controls to a form. So dear student, we were familiar with the concept how to design a form. So think that this is my form. Now I want to have one label to read number. Okay, now to read the number, I want to provide text box. In the sense, I'm going to input whatever the value that is to the text box. In the sense, I'm going to enter the value to the text box. Now, in my next label, I'm going to read second number and once again text box. Now, I want to display sum and I'm going to use the label or text box to display the sum, and I must have a controller that is nothing but the button. Now let me to discuss how can I add controls to form. So this is nothing but a form. Now I want to control this form. To control this form, what are the things I want to do? So in our Windows application form, there's nothing but Windows Form application in C#, we will create one form. In the sense, I'm going to create one form that must have following functionality. In the sense, user must have the ability to enter the name as well as address. In the sense, what I want to create a form to enter username and address. Then I want to give the option to the user to choose the city. Along with that, the ability of the user to enter the option for the gender. In the sense, I want to provide the option to the user to select their gender, an option to be chosen, or an option to choose a course which the user want to learn. In the sense, you have to list certain courses. In that, user want to select particular course. I want to design a form. Along with that, I want to control the form. In the sense, I want to provide the controls. For that, I'm going to have the text box. label, radio button, checkbox, etc. So dear student, now I want to design a form with all the functionality. For that, I must want to add the controls. Then what kind of controls? That is nothing but text box, label, radio button, check button or check box, etc. Now, dear student, this is the first step used to design the form. In the sense, think that I have name field and I have address field. Okay. Now, to place address and name, I am going to take the group. That is nothing but the group box. In the sense, whenever I want to group two or more controls together, then I can able to use group box. So what is my first step? The first step is to drag the group box control onto the Windows form from the toolbox. So dear student, in my last session, we discussed from where I can able to have the toolbox and from where I can able to have my labels, buttons, etc. Suppose if I want to have group button, from where I'm going to get? From the toolbox. First, what I want to do? I want to go to the toolbox, and when I click the toolbox, I'm going to get long list of options. In that, I'm going to select the particular option based on my requirement. And according to this application, I want group box. Now, once the group box has been added, go to the properties, which by clicking the group box control, think that this is your form. Okay, think that you added group box. Now you have to change the property. So what you have to do? You just right click. Okay, then you're going to get the property in the text field, change it to user details. So what you have to display on the group box? That is user detail. Over. Now, see, this is the output of first step. In the sense, see, I want to create a group box. Okay. And what is the name of the group box? That is nothing but user detail. Now, inside this, I'm going to have two more controls. In the sense, I'm going to have the name field and address field. Now what I want? I want to have, see here, the first step is to drag the label because I want to display, it is name. So what I want to do? I want to drag the label. At the same time, to display address, I want to drag one more label. So how many times I'm going to have label button? Twice. Okay, I'm going to have label button twice or two times. One is for name and one is for address. Now, see, if I consider label, okay, in that I have the text and I want to change that default text into name because I'm going to use label for the field name and another label, it is for address. Fine. After that, this is the output of the form. So here, think that this is my group box. Okay. Under this group box, I'm going to club two more controls, that is name and address. And where I'm going to have in my group box. So what is the use of group box? It's mainly used to group the different controls together. Then I want to provide the place where the user can able to input their name and address. For that, I'm going to have text box. Okay. And from where I'm going to get the text box? From the tool box. So I want to select the tool box, select the text box, drag and drop. Now, see, I want to give the name to my text box. So where I will go? I'll go to name, then I'll give txt name. Now, dear student, see, if I consider this form, I have two text box. Okay, so how many text box I required here? I require two text box. Now, the user can able to input the name and address. Okay, this is my label and this one text 1, that is text box 1 and text box 2. Okay, fine. Now, see here. The first step is to drag the list box. So, dear student, I want to provide the list to the user that they can able to select the place. For example, say Mysore, Bangalore and Mangalore. Okay, I want to list all three places together. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have the list box. So I can able to list many items together. So for that, I'm going to have the list box. And if I consider this example, there are 3 cities. And I want to list all 3 cities together. And I want to allow the user to select the city. For that, I'm going to use list box control. See here. Think that, okay, this is the list box. And see here, I have the up arrow and I have the down arrow. And I'm going to provide multiple choices. See here, Mumbai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, or I can have Mysore, Bangalore or Mangalore. And I can able to move this one towards left and towards right. So dear student, this is the example for list box. Now, so once the list box has been added, go to the property window by clicking on the list box control. In the sense, I want to enter the name or I want to enter the item. Okay, and I want to change the name, and where I can able to do for that, I want to go to property of list box. Okay, there I want to make the modification. Now dear students, see, this is the output of this form. In the sense, initially we started with group box. In that group box, I'm having 2 labels and 2 text box. After that, I want to provide the multiple options to the user. For that, I'm going to have list box. And I have provided 3 options, that is Mumbai, Bangalore and Hyderabad. So dear student, once this form is done and according to the requirement, what are the 2 more fields I want to add? One is gender and another one is subject. And if I consider gender, I have only 2 possibilities. One is male and one is female. Okay, and user can able to select only one gender at a time. For that, I'm going to have the radio button. And where this radio button present, that is under toolbox. Now what I want to do, I want to go to the toolbox. In that, I want to select radio button control. Okay, and I just want to drag and drop. Now I want to change the property of this radio button. Then what I want to do, I want to go to the properties of radio button. In that, I want to change the text. Okay, so I want male and female. And I want to display male and female. For that, I'm going to use property. Now, this is the output of the radio button. So dear student, if I consider gender, I can have male or female. Now the user can able to select one option at a time. For that, I'm going to use radio button. Now dear student, a checkbox. Now why I'm going to use checkbox when I want to provide multiple option to the user. In the sense, user can able to select two or more items at a time. So a checkbox is used to provide a list of options in which user can able to choose multiple choice. For example, think that you have subjects like Java, .NET, Python and Android. Okay, now if I consider this example, how many options I'm having? 4 options. Now I'm going to allow the user to select 4 options, or they can able to select 2 options or 1 option or 3 options. So here I'm going to provide list of options in which user can able to choose multiple choice. Okay, now to provide multiple choices to the user, I'm going to have another control called checkbox. It's a small box, okay? So I'm going to provide tick symbol. So here the first step is to drag the checkbox control and you have to drop it. And from where you're going to get the checkbox? That is once again it is under toolbox. Now what you have to do? You have to go to the toolbox, select the checkbox control, drag and drop. Now you have to change the property. So here you have to change the text, okay, and you have to provide different subject name. At the same time, you have to change the ID or name of the subject. So dear student, so this is the final output of this form. So dear student, I'm going to provide multiple options to the user. Okay, I'm going to provide multiple options to the user. So here I'm going to provide C# and it is ASP. So here user can able to select both the options or user can able to select only one option. So dear student, in this form I have explained the possible controls which is present under toolbox. Not only these much controls, we have plenty of controls. So dear student, in this form, I'm going to explain the controls and how I can able to use the control, and based on my requirement I'm going to use the control. Okay, this is the way I can able to design my own form. And if I consider this example, I have group box, name, that is nothing but the labels, text box control, then I have list box control, then I have radio button control, then I have checkbox control. Along with that, I can have few more controls. Anyway, dear student, if I want to some other controls like button, where I'm going to get the button? Under toolbox, and this is the most commonly used control to control overall activities of the form. Okay, so I'm going to select the button and I'm going to drag and drop, and I'm going to make the modification according to my requirement. Okay, and what are the modification I'm going to do? That is, what is my button name? That's nothing but the submit, and I have to give the name to the button. So it is BTN submit. That's nothing but button submit. Okay, now if I see this one, this is the overall output of this example. See, I'm going to have the submit button. Okay, when I submit the button, what's going to happen? Okay, and what kind of program I want to write. So dear student, this is just the front end design. Okay, this is nothing but just front end design. This is nothing but the graphical user interface design. And where I want to write coding, for that I want to double click submit button. So I'm going to get the coding wizard. There I'm going to write the code for this entire form. Dear student, in my today's session, I started with how to control a form. In that, I have explained what is text box, what is label, how to use label, what is group box, what is list box, what is radio button, what is check box. All those things I have explained in detail. And in my next session, I'm going to deal with add two numbers in C# using Windows form. This is the simple program. Dear student, let's meet in the next session with some more Windows form application. Until that, keep watching and keep learning. Thank you.